it's really disturbing.
Pain. It hurts.
It's devastating to see so much pain and to hear the stories of the people who had built so much community and have lost the feeling of that community, and to see so many people just trying to find their path again and feeling like everything that was their support has been taken away from them.
I remember going to church vaguely with my grandmother to a black church here in town, and the fond memories attached to it, and all I can think is that now there are kids that, instead of the memories like I have, only have gunfire and blood splatter. Nothing that you find identity in should be used as a weapon against you.
Knowing that this is happening to people that are like the people I grew up with, like the people that helped raise me, it's pure pain.
I feel like I have a lot of ties, not only because I am an African American, but because I was raised in a church. My great-grandfather built a church. Our family still maintains the church. It is a very big part of how I grew up, and seeing that come down would do a lot more than, just hurt me emotionally. It hurt physically too.
When I see the American flag, I always think of something very large, like physically large, but also like emotionally large, like something that's way bigger than me and could like topple me over. I've thought that ever since I was little.
When I see the American flag, it's simply racism and indoctrination, and a great sense of shame that it applies to me without my consent.
I think of bravery, think of justice, I think of something that stands for a new opportunity to do what's right and to make yourself a better person.
I just feel uncomfortable. It's difficult to care about a country that I was forced into being a part of. Like, my ancestors didn't want to be here, but they were forced here, and now I'm stuck here. So I think of the American flag, and I get confused about my identity, because I guess I'm American because I have no other choice but to be American, because all other parts of my identity were stripped from me.
When I see the American flag, I think of a lot of things that are synonymous with equality, or so it should stand for.
Honestly, when I see the Confederate flag, I feel the same things that I feel when I see the American flag, just distilled down to a stronger form. More hate, more racism, more America. Personally, I see American flags as the PC Confederate flag.
When I see the Confederate flag, I think of secession, I think of anti-America, I think of injustice, and I think of pride for that injustice.
What it means to be extremely racist and to have that symbol represent like a system that backs up racism.
I try not to think about what it was like learning about the Civil War in school, being like one of the like 2 black kids in the class and just having everyone white just be weird the whole time. It was like reading To Kill a Mockingbird, and we get to the part where the N-word is used and just having everyone just look at me waiting for me to get upset. It's terrible. Most of what I learned about my history and my heritage as a black person, I learned in church. So going into school, I had a high expectation for what I was gonna learn, and they failed.
When I was in school, I learned that the Civil War was about the South not wanting to let their slaves go, and the North wanting the slaves to be freed. I learned that the Civil War was because the South didn't like that, so they decided to make their own country where they could keep all their rights and their slaves and start a new way of life that was just to their liking.
We learned that the South was bad because they wanted to have slaves, And we kind of learned like the North didn't want slaves, and we learned that President Lincoln didn't want slaves either. I was raised in a school district that wanted people to get along, but through a really, really old school lens. Not old school as in like perpetuating racism directly, but doing it in a way that makes people not realize they're being racist. For example, we were taught that people were people and that you don't think about their skin color. It should never be a factor at all, the colorblind factor. So I was never taught how to be racist directly. People like snuck it in my hometown. It was really, really creepy that way. So as I dissect it, as I get older, I realized like, oh, I wasn't taught about slavery. I was taught like really crude, keen ways to be racist.
A very whitewashed, very calm version of the Civil War in which it was simply about slavery, but we weren't taught about the slaves or their lives, except that it was a business contract, basically, that you were supplied room and board for free labor, which is entirely not true. We were not taught that the South fully seceded or had their own agendas, simply that they wanted to. Never learned about the reparations or anything having to do with them coming back into the nation and the things that they faced while doing so.